Monday. It's Christmas Day, December 25th, 2023. Merry Christmas to you. I actually wrote about Christmas this morning, um, and saying Merry Christmas as a non-Christian. Um, I believe I've mentioned before that I am, let me fix my shirt, look like a slob while I'm live on YouTube. Look like more of a slob, but I guess it's better than me being half naked in my basement doing burpees. Um, yeah, I'm sure I've mentioned past live talks that I am not a Christian. I went to Catholic school for my formative years up until my second year in high school, when I was not so politely asked to leave and go somewhere else, in which I did until I was asked not so politely to leave and go somewhere else, in which I did. Um, Finally, I just said, you know what, the heck with it, and I got my high school equivalency and went on to community college for an actual pretty not too bad short 2-year academic career. Um, However, at one time I did consider myself a Christian in a way. You know, it wasn't a deep faith because I did have curiosity in other things as well, most particularly shamanism, Native American spirituality, even East Indian spirituality at a very early age. Um, Later on, Buddhism. But that sticks with you. You can't spend that much time going to Catholic school and not have it stick with you. And I'm glad it did. That even though I'm not a Christian because I do not believe that Jesus was the Son of God, and not only that, Jesus didn't claim to be the Son of God. A little mistranslation, purposely so, for the point of control for the major churches of the time. However, I have a deep and abiding love for Christianity, as mainly though for growing up Catholic. I love the traditions. I love the feel of going to Mass, midnight Mass especially, Christmas Eve, and hearing it in Latin, which I don't believe you hear too much any longer. What I don't like is the cultural and social insistence upon the church into people's lives, in which I don't think it belongs, not in the way that they insist. I think that much the way yoga has the yamas and the niyamas, the ethical restraints, they're called restraints, the yamas, because what we do is we restrain. The first one is ahimsa, which is nonviolence. It's called a restraint because by restraining tendencies of violence, we increase our peacefulness, we increase peace. So by restraining anything, we increase the opposite effect proportionally within our lives. So not lying, not stealing, practicing sexual restraint. Not necessarily abstinence, but being mindful of our energy and how we spend it, how we might waste it. Learning ways to cultivate it for the sake of creativity. At the same time, and I think we'll bring this up, I believe Christianity did offer something along the lines of the niyamas and the yamas. Again, the ethical restraints and the personal observances of the niyamas. And they did that with, or Jesus did that, with the Sermon of the Mount. And many historical scholars, biblical scholars, believe that the only true words spoken by Jesus in the entire New Testament were actually the Sermon of the Mount. Everything else is after. Gospel of Paul, the Gospel of Luke, the Gospel of Matthew. And all of that is, and Jesus said. Sermon of the Mount, Jesus said. There's no secondary figure in between. They also believe that if it's true, if the only surviving words of the New Testament happen to be Sermon of the Mount, it would be enough to base an entire religion upon. Easily so. Because it is personal observances. This is how you live your life. Jesus was so clear in his teachings when he said the kingdom of heaven is within. He didn't say go to church and do this and do that. The social culture wars that we're fighting now. He didn't speak on issues of homosexuality, of transgender, of abortion. Those are personal things. You make up your mind yourself about them. However, think of the people that Jesus sought out, the company of, that he taught. They were not the righteous. They were not the ones who we would look upon and think, well, their lives are pretty good. They don't need saving. He went down to the bottom. He went to the people. He went to those in need, those suffering, those who are sick, those who are hungry, and he fed them. He worked. He did the deeds. He taught. This is how you do it. This is how you do it, to quote my treadmill dancing friend, Destiny. Destiny Forever Walks, PhD. So, let's get a Sermon of the Mount, and then I want to talk about let's see. And then I want to talk about why I as a non-Christian, say Merry Christmas. I say Happy Holidays. I say whatever the occasion fits. I try to be respectful. Happy Holidays fits because I don't know if you're celebrating Hanukkah. I don't know, whatever. There's a series of holidays between Thanksgiving and New Year's. Happy Holiday fits everything. However, Merry Christmas works for me as well. If someone says Merry Christmas to me, I don't get offended. I don't know anyone who does get offended when they hear Merry Christmas, but I know lots of people who do get offended if I don't say it, if I say Happy Holidays. It's a weird situation, and it doesn't have to be weird. It's based upon thought and belief that we can easily let go of. It doesn't even need to exist. We keep insisting that we have this thought that becomes a belief, that it's absolutely right because we have it. Even my cat comes up and meows in agreement with me. Think how much damage is caused by our insistence on being right, our opinion. We have such a high esteem of our opinion. We have a higher esteem of our opinion than we do ourselves. We have a higher esteem of our opinion than we do other people. For absolutely no reason. Or an opinion might change instantly as well. But we've invested so much time and energy that for the most part, we cling to them. Insisting. Goes back to George Harrison's wonderful song, I, Me, Mine. The ego. Just grasping. I, me, mine. He sings all through the day, all through the night. I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. That's the voice of the ego. Very insistent voice. So insistent that we don't even realize it's fictitious. Fictitious? Probably should have just said fiction. But I was trying to be highfalutin and I threw in fictitious. And I'm not even sure I said it right. So, we're going to cover two things in a short Christmas live session. Jesus said the Beatitudes, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." We could go point by point and address um, the deeper meaning of those, and maybe we will for some, um, maybe not for all of them. You do want to keep relatively short. Um, Blessed are the poor in spirit. Poor in spirit. What do you think that means? You could be rich. You could have every material comfort in the world and remain poor in spirit. And poor in spirit doesn't mean um, just the pretending that you don't have anything in the world. There's no pretense in poor in spirit. As a matter of fact, it is the absence. To be poor in spirit is the absence of pretense. It means this is it. This is my sincerity. This is my humbleness. This is my life. And I offer it to you in service. There's no gold palaces. There's no grand mansions. I'm not saying that God wants you to be poor, but to live in a big mansion, to live in a golden palace, to live any type of lifestyle in the face of those who are suffering without doing something about it is not being poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. When we think of mourning, we think of it as such a personal thing, and of course it is a personal thing. However, who are we mourning for? We're mourning for the loss of others. Mourning can mean I am mourning because there are starving people. I am mourning because there are people without homes. I am mourning because there are people who are cold, who are thirsty, who I have yet to be able to reach and help. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Probably the most famous of the Beatitudes. Meek, we have to take into account translations of words that had slightly different meanings back then and in the original language. And meek does not mean timid, does not mean afraid. It means that you are living that humble life, that you're not grandstanding, that you're not making large claims of your importance, that you are as ego-free as this life allows. Ego-free is an important way to look at it. Or a diminished ego. I know lots of spiritual traditions, traditions of which I follow, will put an all-out assault on the ego, and I don't buy that either. The ego, I'm going to use my word again, fictitious. It's fiction. It has a role to play, a role of fiction, but it's not meant to be the sole bearer of our identity. So we let it go. And it sticks around. Letting go doesn't mean we push something away. It just means that we're no longer grasping at it. We're no longer believing that it is has a larger role than it does. We just let it go, and then it does what it does. But we ourselves, we remain pure awareness with a smile. Look at the ego, thinking it's so important, and not even running the show any longer. All right, where was I? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Again, righteousness does not mean the righteousness of my opinion is right. Righteousness is deeper than that. Righteousness is the righteousness of God, of spirit, of who we are. Pure awareness, not ego. We've sort of put the ego and righteousness together, that my opinion shall be avenged if you cross it. If you don't hold the same faith, the same opinion, the same belief as I do, then you are not one of the righteous, and that you will be struck down eventually. That's ego talk. Righteousness is pure spirit. If you hunger and thirst for righteousness, it means that you are hungering and thirsting for truth, the truth of who you are, which is pure, uninterrupted awareness. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Probably needs little explanation. Merciful, we could also say forgiveness. Simple forgiveness. And that happens on its own. We don't, by right, we don't forgive. We do things like, well, what you did was wrong, but I will overlook it, or I will pretend to forget it for the sake of convenience so that we can carry on a relationship. But I remember it, and I'll bring it back up in a conversation as needed. Forgiveness happens on its own. Everything is instantly forgiven as it happens. That's why it's already in the past. You have to cast your thoughts to something that already happened, that no longer exists, that energetically is gone, in order to hold a grudge, or to even say, I forgive you. It's already done. It's already forgiven. All you can do is acknowledge the fact that it has been forgiven, and then move on. And you do that more so for your own sake than for the sake of others. Because to hold any type of grudge, to hold any type of resentment, means that you are trapped by that other person's energy. They have control over you. What they did has control over you. When you forgive, you leave that all behind. You free your energy, you free yourself, and you're good to go. This is a beautiful quote by Mark Twain, attributed to Mark Twain. Perhaps someone else said it, but I believe it has been attributed to Mark Twain. And he was a wise enough man and wrote some beautiful words that he easily, probably said it. And I quoted this the other day as well. That forgiveness is the fragrance released by the violet upon the heel that has crushed it. Upon the heel that has crushed it. Even as it happens, fragrance is being released. That's forgiveness. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Pure in heart is what is already here. You just need to look, and you need to look past all that ego clutter that is there to see that pure spirit. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. How many people are peacemakers? With themselves. The whole role of yoga is coming to peace. Coming to your own peacefulness, coming to your own peace of mind. Everything about yoga is based upon that. And it's right here in the Sermon on the Mount, in the Beatitudes. Blessed are the peacemakers. How do you get to be a peacemaker? Follow the other Beatitudes. And you will be steeped in peace. You will be surprised to know how little that word steep comes up in an actual conversation. This might be the first time in years. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Again, we've talked about righteousness. So be persecuted for it means that you are being asked to go against your call of spirit. You're being asked to do what you know isn't true for you. Being true to yourself, not true to your ego, true to your real self, true to that sense of awareness, that gives you the kingdom of heaven. We're going to do one last one. It goes on, there's others, because there are talks of that go beyond just the Beatitudes on the Sermon on the Mount. You have the fulfillment of the law. He talks about murder. Stuff like that. Let's go back to the last one. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecute the prophet uh, who were before you. Same way they persecute the prophet who were before you. Prophets. Sorry. Makes more sense if I keep that S on. Again, if we look at it a little deeper, when people insult you, persecute you, falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of your belief. But we're not talking about just that belief in religion or the belief in a figure, but your belief in the truth of who you are. Remember when Jesus talked about the kingdom of heaven is within. He's asking you, telling you where to look. When you're looking in that direction and you are persecuted, when people say evil things against you, when you are insulted, this doesn't matter, because you remain based. You remain firmly planted in that sense of peace. You're already in the kingdom. You're already blessed. So let's turn away from that just for a minute. And why I like to say Merry Christmas sometimes. For me, Merry Christmas signifies the birth of Christ. Not just the birth of Jesus, but the birth of Christ, which was a title. Christos, which is Greek, the anointed one. Christ signifies that Christ consciousness that is born every day. But we take the significance of this day, of the 25th, and we say this is when Jesus was born, and with Jesus came that light of Christ's consciousness. So when we say Merry Christmas, we're saying Merry Christmas to that moment of birth of Christ's consciousness, which can be born in each and every one of us in any moment. So let's say it was born today. Let's say that Christ consciousness was born today in our celebration of the birth of Jesus. That means we have the potential right now to be peacemakers. That the energy of Jesus is reborn within us, within our hearts right now, in order, with a divine purpose, in order for us to carry out that mission of love. It's a big mission. It's a big step. Are we up for it? For a long time, I wasn't. I think I am now. I hope you are too. I hope we can all be peacemakers in 2024. That's a big thing. You know what? And it doesn't have to be, when I say big, it doesn't have to be grand in that sense of going out and marching. Remember, there was a radio interview with Mother Teresa decades ago, and she was asked if she would protest against whatever specific war was happening at the time, and she said no, which sort of shocked. This was on a radio interview, and it sort of shocked the interviewer. And she said, if you have a march for peace, I will be there, but I won't lend my energy to be against something, because you just make it stronger. So, to be an instrument of peace, as St. Francis would say, an instrument of thy peace, start with yourself. Cultivate the yamas and the niyamas of yoga. Meditate, do breath work. Study the Beatitudes, practice them. Or if you have a different faith, or even if you have a different faith, it doesn't matter. True words are true words, spoken across all faith. You can turn to the Upanishads in Hinduism, you can turn to the Dhammapada in Buddhism, you can pick up the A Course in Miracles if you like more of a New Age approach, Sermon on the Mount. St. Francis's, the prayer of St. Francis. They consider that spiritual technology, transformative. Yoga, Buddhism, all of it. Or you know what? Just meditate, do some yoga, do some breath work, and everything else will be revealed. You'll know exactly what to do, when to do it, who to do it for. Pretty simple. So, all right, guys. With that, let's just say Merry Christmas, and I will see you tomorrow.